July 1864. For 3 long months, General Ulysses S. Grant's Army of the Potomac had engaged in a series of fierce battles against Robert E. Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. The two armies first met at the Battle of the Wilderness in early May, and subsequent battles had maneuvered Union troops along the defensive perimeter around the city of Petersburg, the supply center for the Confederate capital. If Union troops could secure Petersburg, it was believed Richmond would soon fall. Union attempts to overtake Petersburg, however, only resulted in a prolonged campaign of trench warfare. Stuck in a stalemate during a particularly hot and humid Virginia summer, General Ambrose Burnside decided to take drastic measures. Union troops would dig a tunnel, pack it with explosives, and blow up the Confederate line. The plan originated from Pennsylvania troops, some of whom were coal miners before the war. They argued that with the fortifications destroyed, Union troops could carry the position and finally break past Confederate troops. With the go-ahead from General Burnside, the coal miners dug a tunnel over 510 feet long and packed it with 4 tons of highly explosive black powder right underneath the feet of the Confederate soldiers. Meanwhile, African-American troops, under the leadership of General Edward Ferrero, engaged in daily training exercises as part of a larger plan to lead the assault after the explosion. According to one historian, quote, "If all went according to plan, black soldiers stood a chance of being the first Union soldiers to enter the city of Petersburg." In the final hours preceding the blast, however, Major General George Meade began to question the plan of using African-American troops to lead the assault. Some historians argue that Meade worried that if the mission failed, he would be criticized for needlessly sacrificing the lives of black soldiers. The Major General ultimately ordered General Burnside to replace Ferrero's troops with the White Division, and after drawing straws, the job ultimately went to General James J. Ledley's 1st Division. However, Ledley's troops lacked the specific mission training that the African-American troops possessed, and because they had been on the front line since July 18th, it was believed that Ledley's men were war-weary and tired. Nevertheless, on the morning of July 30th, 1864, with the tunnel complete, the explosives in place, and the troops reorganized, Union generals gave the order to light the fuse inside the tunnel. The explosion immediately killed 278 Confederate soldiers, and in the words of one soldier, the sky was filled with, quote, "earth, stones, timbers, arms, legs, guns unlimbered, and bodies unlimbed." Stunned by the explosion, Confederate troops could not immediately return fire. However, Ledley's untrained men were also not prepared for the chaos in the aftermath of the explosion. Instead of going around the crater or across the crater with footbridges, Ledley's division, amidst the smoke, debris, and confusion, charged directly into the crater. Confederate troops quickly recovered and formed up around the crater and began firing rifles and artillery down into the hole, in what a Confederate general later described as, quote, "a turkey shoot." With the planned attack spinning dangerously out of control, the order came to send in the reserve colored troops. But the United States colored troops faced considerable fire, and many of them had no choice but to take cover in the crater. For the next few hours, Confederate soldiers slaughtered Union troops and specifically targeted African-American soldiers as they attempted to fight their way out of the crater. Watching from the Union lines, an officer remarked of the United States colored troops, quote, "Those noble fellows cross the field under a withering fire, but still rush on regardless of fallen comrades and the storm of pitiless lead." When the battle was finally over, the Union suffered high casualties, with 504 soldiers killed, 1,881 wounded, and 1,413 missing or captured. Ulysses S. Grant would later remark of the catastrophe, "It was the saddest affair I have witnessed in this war."